Hey, Vinny Lips here from Off the Block, and the NCAA Tournament field has been announced, and as always, there were a couple of surprises. So let's talk about this new field that came out. First, let's talk about the non-surprise. BYU, the #1 seed overall, they get the bye of the semifinals. Not surprised by that. The Cougars were the best team throughout the season. They had all the criteria, so no surprise there. But I think one of the shockers is UCLA getting the other #2 seed and bye the semifinals ahead of Ohio State. You look at the criteria, and the overwhelming majority of criteria, Ohio State had the edge, had the advantage. However, UCLA held one big piece of criteria, and that was head-to-head record. UCLA beat Ohio State in the opening week of the season, and that win against the Buckeyes helped propel them to the #2 seed. Now, end of the day, you're likely going to have to go through one of those two teams, whether it's Ohio State or UCLA. So we'll see kind of how that field breaks on out. But very intriguing that UCLA got the #2 ahead of Ohio State. The other big bit of intrigue was going to be that final at-large bid. We had projected it off the block that Stanford was going to get it. We said it was going to be a very, very close call. We basically called it almost too close to call, and that's exactly what happened. It was too close to call. Long Beach State got the bid ahead of Stanford. So a couple things when you look at the numbers and you can see why the selection committee gave the bid to Long Beach State ahead of Stanford. You look at the overall record, and then you look at the amount of non-conference matches played. Long Beach State had about 5 more non-conference matches than Stanford. I think that this is going to be a big emphasis that's going to be continued to reinforce. The selection committee for years has been saying they want to see more non-conference matches. Credit to Long Beach State. They went out and did that. They participated in the A6 Invitational. They traveled across country to play Penn State and Mount Olive. They hosted their own non-conference event. While Stanford, credit them as well. They traveled to the Midwest to play Ball State, to play IPFW. So can't fault either of the teams for not wanting to schedule non-conference, but Long Beach State just scheduled a little bit more. And in the end, those couple more wins in non-conference play was the thing that put Long Beach State over the edge. So those are kind of some of the surprises. The other bit of intrigue as well is that Erskine, the Conference Carolina champion, got the #5 seed ahead of George Mason. You know, this is a little bit of a bucking tradition because the Conference Carolinas had never been seeded higher than #6. However, you look at, once again, all the criteria, all the things that the selection committee uses to determine the field, and it was easy to see why Erskine deserved the #5. They beat George Mason the majority of selection committee criteria categories. They earned that #5 seed. But I'll say this about George Mason. They beat maybe the #6, but they may be one of the hottest teams coming in the NCAA tournament. So Ohio State, they're going to have their hands full in the playing match, playing a good George Mason team. Well, that's going to do it for us here for our breakdown of the field. Be sure to stay with Off the Block throughout this week and next week as we prepare for the NCAA tournament that begins not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday at Penn State. It's going to be a fun one, and you're going to get all your coverage here at offtheblogblog.com.